It's daybreak here on Arise News, and it's time for the press preview. First, look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. We start, of course, with our sister publication, This Day newspaper, and it has on its front page, ASUU strike, FD will not sign agreement it cannot implement, says Minister. It has some 5 riders there. Government reiterates offer to include 200 billion naira in 2023 budget for varsities revitalization outstanding arrears, says it can only afford 23.5% salary increase. Professorial cadre to get 35% upward review constitutes team to review BRICS committee recommendations. VCs recommend 800,000 salary for professors. All right, Polish President Duda in historic visit woos Nigerian investors. And INEC, comprehensive list of registered voters out soon. Can find it, I think, on page 42. And on the top mast says, Akabweze, FG may rework MTEF over suspension of 5% telecom tax. It says Nigeria may end up unwillingly with IMF if it fails to address physical challenges in sensible, sustainable manner. Hints at hike in banks' contribution to AMCON, and then insists government not bloated, only needs rebalancing.
The Punch newspaper now, anti-drug war, federal government freezes 600 accounts, seizes 249 luxury vehicles. And on the front page, pictures of President Buhari and the Polish president. Jared Poland planned closer ties, ink a great deal. Federal government grows value-added tax by 20%, rakes in 1.2 trillion naira. And Fayose believes I will be uncontrollable as ex-governor. That's according to Ajayi. Insecurity, FX crisis, cut capital inflows by 23%. The finance minister speaking. Find that in the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's look at The Nation. The Nation has on its front page the same ASUU story. As the government raises 14-man panel to resolve northern issues, PDP campaign team Atiku may shun Wike. Dambuwal Ogwai Oilola tipped as DG. Detractors after my life, says Rivers governor. PDP governorship candidates in Port Harcourt. Let's leave it there. Okay. Nigeria gets 23 slots as Google leads 60 African startups with $4 million. Tinubu donates 50 million naira to Jigawa flood victims. Okay, let's leave it there for The Nation.
The Guardian newspaper now says federal government to revisit no work, no pay as VCs push to end strike. Separatist agitations in the southeast may affect Obi Atiku's chances. That's according to a report. Oil theft, government orders immediate dissolution of anti-vandal units.
Right, some international newspapers now. Truss appoints cabinet of cronies to leading jobs. That's Independent?
That's the Independent. Let's move on now quickly to the Financial Times. Truss assumes office with vow to steer Britain out of energy storm.
All right, The Guardian. Into the storm. Truss vows to solve cost of living crisis.
And the Daily Telegraph says we can ride out the storm. That's Britain's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss.
Okay, let's just take one more. The Eye. It says Truss era begins with tax warning.
Well, for the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello. Good morning, Emmanuel. Good to see you. Our sister publication This Day is leading with the ASUU strike, and the federal government says it will not sign an agreement it cannot implement. And that's according to the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu. They're also mulling a 23.5% pay rise for the teachers. Emmanuel, the university lecturers do have a bone to pick with the federal government. Their earnings are not something to take home, are they?
Good morning, Kenneth. Good morning, Indy.
Good morning.
Well, yes. The issue of take home is a turning one, and over the years, and what the Tuesday report is pointing out, and what the minister is saying is that look, it is not just our own problem. These are promises that have built up over the years, and that we are just trying to solve a problem that has lingered on. And he has a point there. Some people will say that that's a very honest admission to say, look, we can't enter into agreements that we can keep. There are people that will say that that is a very, very honest admission on the part of the federal government. And the fact that that is not beyond honesty, that's also very transparent and saying, look, we want to deal with this thing in a manner that we can actually keep the promises or actually do the things we say we'll do. What has happened in the past, according to the minister, is that you have governments, just trying to get the lecturers to be happy, just make those fake promises. I will call them for fake promises, or just empty promises, just to get them off their back, and then you have the problem. You don't solve a problem by making promises. You solve a problem by keeping the promises you've made. And this government is trying to say, like, look, we do business differently. We're going to just go into, we know what your demands are, but this is what we can realistically do. There are people who say that, well, that is vintage Buhari for you, who always want to say that he's trying to work within the limits of the laws, within the limits of what is honest and what is doable. So this is the federal government pushing back. We've riled against the federal government that is not really willing to do much about the plight of lecturers and, of course, the students, and, of course, the institutions themselves. But with what Adamu is saying yesterday, Minister of Education is actually pointing out the various efforts they've made, not only to solve a problem that is essentially theirs, but one that has lingered over the years, saying that, look, we want to do what is realistic. Well, from henceforth, we'll see whether the lecturers will take some of the proposal made by the federal government. But it's looking as if, for the first time in a very long while, there seems to be hope, some little dim of light at the end of the tunnel for this, what some papers are, of course, describing as a naughty, very, very naughty situation of the ASUU.
All right, still on this day, I watched Akabueze yesterday. He was transparent and straight to the point. He just said things the way they are when he was answering questions. Akabueze, FG may rework MTF over suspension of 5% telecom tax. And then some of the writers here, Emmanuel, says Nigeria may unwillingly, may end up unwillingly with IMF if it fails to address fiscal challenges in a sensible and sustainable manner. He says that insists government, not bloated, only needs rebalancing.
Well, yeah, again, you find everyone trying to understand or even explain away the situations we find, the economic situation or crisis we find ourselves in. And, well, if you say it's not bloated, you say what we need is some balancing. There are all sorts of arguments, all sorts of shades of opinion around the issue of what, what has happened to our economy. And but at the end of the day, it is, it's going to take more than just, high talk and those theories to be able to get around it. It will take serious action, like we see happening all over the world. Of course, there's a global meltdown, but nations are taking proactive measures to see what they can do to use his own word, balance the economy in such a way that it benefits the citizens.
Emmanuel, John Maxwell would say it all rises and falls with leadership. And 2023, PDP is still undecided on who leads its presidential campaign. That report's on page 43. What does this mean for the opposition party?
Well, it just means that the opposition party is not getting its act together, and they've got a serious problem, the Wike problem. I think what started like a joke is now becoming a huge, fire to consuming the party itself. If the PDP is not able to get its act together, the campaigns are just underway in a matter of weeks, and they still don't have a campaign council up there. The APC keeps giving this impression that it's got its act together. Forget that people have been accusing it of the Muslim ticket, the crisis of its own record. But when it comes to organization, APC is getting it right. I think the Nation newspaper had a picture of almost all the leadership of the APC, in their visit to Jigawa, giving the impression that, look, we're united, we're together, we're ready for this campaign. Not so much for the PDP that is wobbling and really, struggling under this weight. Again, Wike yesterday doubling down still on his attacks yesterday at some commission, still talking about the fact that nobody can intimidate him and that he's not ready to work for the party. So those are the kind of things that we define the campaigns going forward. APC having a strong upper hand, a lead already in its organization, ready to go on the campaign. But PDP really needing to do more, especially with the campaign council, and of course what to do with what is now clearly a Wike's problem.
I actually was watching when he went to, I think, a project, commissioning project in Abia State with Okezi, and he says people are trying to break into their ranks, that no one can do that. What they're seeing with the 4 governors with him is make believe that the people who are working the work are behind him, whatever that means. But still talking on Wike now, leave us, this is a Nation newspaper, PDP campaign team, Atiku mentioned Wike, but that's not where I'm going to. Leave us out of your mess. APC is warning you. And then 103 billion paid to all marketers as bridging claims in 9 months. This is coming from NMDPRA. Emmanuel.
Yeah, well, the first story in the APC is really taking advantage. They should, if you are the ruling party, and your greatest competitor in the race, the PDP, is wobbling the way it is. You want to take advantage of that, and that's what the APC is saying, telling you keep us out of your mess, because there are talks that maybe the APC is actually trying to fuel. There are people behind Wike trying to fuel Wike and get him to do the sort of thing he's doing, and all the other crises the PDP is facing. But now the APC is saying that, well, look, count us out. It's your problem. Deal with it. Don't join us in your crisis. So it's a way. It's the campaign season, and I think we are up against one of the most violent campaigns ahead of us. It's going to be tough, it's going to be messy, it's going to be nasty. All sides will be bringing all sorts of things. And now the APC is weighing on the crisis of the PDP and almost jeering at them or mocking them and saying that, look, deal with your matter. It's nothing to do with us. We're steady, we're ready to go. And it's your own. So it's up to the PDP to actually react to that challenge to see what they will do. But then it's the campaign season, the presidential elections are up ahead. Both sides will be throwing whatever they can find at each other, and it's going to be an interesting scenario to watch.
Emmanuel, a new tenant has just moved into 10 Downing Street, Liz Truss, and she's saying economy, healthcare, energy will be her focus.
Well, yes, and the papers are reporting that she's just walked into a storm. Literally, of course, both physically too, and of course, literally, the storm of the cost of living crisis. There's no rest for the weary. She's just going to hit the ground running, and already a cabinet has formed. Of course, as the congratulations are coming in, so also are the criticism. People saying that she only has a cabinet of yes people or yes men and women, people that will not do much. But she's reassuring, her people that, look, she's got her heart together, and that she's going to be tough with those policies, and that she's going to find ways around it. But then everybody is saying, just watching to see what she can do, because if you look at all the papers, they are really saying that she has walked into a huge storm, and that all eyes will be on her to see how she's going to turn things around. And we'll be watching very interestingly. She's going to be one of the most watched PMs in the history of the UK, and now we're going to see how she's going to deal with all those crises. She's going to go beyond campaign rhetorics now to doing the actual work of dealing with those energy crises and those cost of living crises that she has to deal with immediately.
All right, just the Guardian briefly before we let you go. It says separatist agitations in Southeast may affect Obi. Atiku Chance's report is warning. Then, interestingly, FG is seemingly shifting ground. It says FG to revisit no work, no pay as VCs push to end strike. Just briefly.
Yeah, well, that's part of the story that this they led with, which is the effort at resolving what Guardian is calling a naughty crisis. So yes, FG now trying to say, look, we're responsible. We want to actually listen to your demands, but we have to be realistic in how we deal with it. We don't want to promise too much and we can't do what we can do. So this is just about the efforts, the shifting ground that India you are talking about is part of the effort the federal government is saying that, look, we can bend backwards a bit to solve a serious problem. They need to do that. It's the presidential election season, and this will become, whether you like it or not, it is going to be a campaign issue. And I think that's why there seems to be this race to solve the problem.
I didn't talk to the agitations in the southeast, how it might affect Atiku and Obi.
Well, yes, you know
the report. That's what analysts are warning.
Yes, that it's a serious one, and I'm sure both campaigns will be able to will take it very seriously, because whether you like it or not, it's a serious issue that is going to affect outcomes of elections.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello. That's a press preview. Let's hear from you on all the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter @AriseTV. You can join today's conversation using the hashtag AriseDaybreak.